that we've got here for you. So who watches television anymore? Yeah? Who uses social media? Facebook, Instagram? Yeah. Who has Netflix or Stan? Not that that takes advertising. Read magazines, newspapers? Yep. Walk outside, catch a bus, catch a train, go through train stations, yep. Yes. Yay. Okay, so all the ads that you see out there, 90% of those ads that you see there on the internet, on social media, on Facebook, wherever it is, one of these agencies has placed that ad that you've seen. Yeah? So when you walk out of here today and you see an outdoor sign, you'll be going, oh my God, one of those agencies up there, or James or Nathan or Renee or Kim may have negotiated or strategized or talked to their client about getting their ad out there. Okay, so it's a really, really big industry out there and it's a great job to have. So that's what all those agencies represent. I work at the MFA, I'm Linda Wong, I'm the Director of People, and I work at the MFA and we work with all these member agencies. We're the industry body that works on all the common interests that we have across the industry. Yep? Cool? Alright, so we're media advertising agencies. So if you want a really, really cool career, I recommend doing that. Doing this and working, doing what we all do. Okay, so we've got 4 people here today who were all sitting where you guys were a few years ago. Maybe not Kim and James, but the others were. So we've got Nathan, Renee, Kim and James. Who knows what 2017, 2016, 2011 and 2013 stands for? Yeah, graduating years. God, you guys are smart. Okay, so, and the agencies that they work for are next to their names. So I'm going to hand you over to Nathan. So we're going to have 4 people share their careers. I'm going to talk to you about how to get a career in our industry and how we can help you. And then what happens in terms of once you get in the industry, the support you get, because you're always going to continue learning, which is exciting. And then we'll wrap it up and hopefully you guys will let us take a photo of you guys with the speakers in front so we can do a little bit of bragging when we get back to the office. And then I think the guys will probably stay for about 10 minutes and you can ask them some questions. That's okay, isn't it? Because I didn't ask you that. Yeah, if you've got some questions. Does that sound cool? Okay, Nathan.
All right, if I start screaming, please just let me know. So, hi, my name is Nathan Vega. I work at Icon Communications, and as you can see, I finished up at WSU at the end of 2017. So, just a bit of background on my WSU journey. Like many of you may have had, I actually, once I was finishing high school, I didn't know what degree that I wanted to study, what kind of career that I wanted to go down. So most of my mates were doing business and I just went, I'll do a Bachelor of Business and Commerce as well. So that's where I started and I figured that one was not for me. I was, not gonna lie, just wasn't really enjoying it and really wanted to get into a career that was a bit more innovative, a bit more creative, and that's what actually led me to transfer into studying a Bachelor of Communications. And I was passing every unit, didn't fail one thing, so was happy with that. At the beginning of 2018, I started applying around for jobs and landed at this little agency called Icon Communications. Icon Communications, in a nutshell, is a full-service media agency, which means that we have teams that specialise in things like strategy, creative, media buying, trading, data and analytics, and yeah, just a bit more to name a few, all under the one roof. Some of you may think, clients. So we were actually founded about 20 years ago. Our founding client was actually Commonwealth Bank, and funnily enough, the deal came about at a Australia Day barbecue over some snags and some bevies, and we've managed to retain that client for the past 20 years, and along the way have added a lot of different global and local clients that we've worked with and continue to work with religiously. So, some of you may be thinking Icon, that's a bit of a funny way to spell it. It's usually with a C, but Icon actually originates from the word iconoclast, and it really encompasses what we do as an agency. So we're one who seeks to break conventions and challenge the status quo. So the clients that I work across that we try to be iconoclastic, I guess, I work with Pandora, the jewelry brand, Lindt chocolate, which is dangerous when you're feeling snackish in the agency, and S26 baby formula. So in essence, I try to explain what we do to people that don't really understand media, and it's quite difficult to kind of explain. I think Linda put it quite nicely, but I guess in essence, Pandora, for instance, will brief us in on a campaign that they want to run, whether it's Christmas, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, or a product launch, sorry. They will brief us in with their objectives. Then Icon as an agency will start doing a deep dive into the target audience, their media consumptions, everything like that. And then from there, we try to put together the most effective and efficient channel mix to target our audience for that campaign. So just a bit of a case study on what we do. Just recently with Pandora, I wanted to launch a new product launch. This was the first time they were using these two new designers, these two Italian guys from Italy, so it was a big, big deal for them. We really wanted to launch it with impact, and it was the first time we were actually doing a gold range as well. People usually associate Pandora to be silver bangles and charms and whatnot. So we really had the challenge of changing people's perception around the Pandora brand. And how we did that, we actually had to sign NDAs, so we really couldn't brief in media for some ideas on creative executions. So we all had to think of that in-house. So we really had to think about ways that we can be impactful and have some talkability around this new range. And we also realised that women's media consumptions were actually changing drastically. So how we did that, with some mass awareness, the way we delivered scale was doing a lot of out-of-home. We basically took over the CBD on the eastern seaboard and painted the town gold. My personal favourite was that little tram up there. I think it looks really cool. And then for engage and inspire, we made sure that we were in shopping centres, had panels for that final path to purchase. When you're in shopping centres, I'm sure you see all those little panels there. Subconsciously, you're probably going to see one and think, I should probably want to make my way over into a Pandora store or into a Woolies, whatever it may be. And also we made sure that we were in those key fashion titles like Grazia, Vogue and everything as well, as we were trying to inspire and engage this whole new target audience that wouldn't have considered Pandora in the past. Now for the impact and the talkability stuff, these are probably my favourite stuff that we've ever done. This was actually a hand-painted mural that we did up in Melbourne. It took about 2 days for them to paint. It's all hand-painted. We had those little bee sculptures were actually our hero piece for the campaign. So we had a lot of influencers that went down and took some photos, and you had your everyday commuters just going in and sharing it on their socials, which was amazing. We had bought these cars for Pandora a couple of years ago when we did a campaign, so they actually own these little buggies. And for this campaign, we wrapped them up in gold and also had the sculptures put up onto the cars, and they drove around all of Sydney's iconic locations. Again, a lot of people were taking photos, sharing it online. And lastly, we had an activation at Pitt Street Mall, just right in front of the Pandora store. It was a massive beehive. If you can't tell, the theme was really like this whole bee thing. And inside it smelt like honey. Those little, what are they called, honeycombs were actually holding and showcasing all of the range. And we're also giving away ice cream with gold flakes on it, just so, because everyone loves a freebie, so people will stop, have a look, and whatnot. So just a bit of the results for it as well. We reached over 12 million women just with our out-of-home alone. We also secured 10 million impressions of media coverage. And in a time where retail is really difficult because a lot of people are going and buying things off e-commerce sites, we had really big uplifts within all our flagship stores and overall one happy client. So when we take a step back just to have a look at how I landed in Icon and the role that I'm in at the moment, I actually went to an MFA event, I think, for my advertising media unit. It was actually held in the kitchen of the building that I'm working in at the moment. And then we had a couple of different people from different agencies within different roles come in and explain a day in the life of what they do. And it's actually what really got me excited into working in media. I think one of the key takeouts is media is always evolving. There's technology that's always changing. The way we consume media is just rapidly evolving. So it's just something that I found extremely interested in. And once I finished uni, I actively started looking for media roles. And I guess one key thing for me, when I finished uni, again, I still didn't know exactly what type of media career that I wanted to go down. And now that I've started working at Icon Communications, I think these are the 5 values that we encompass as a brand. And I guess the things that I think helped me get the role that I'm in at the moment is probably passion. I came from like a retail background. I've probably worked 6-7 years in retail before I ended up at Icon. So I just enjoy the whole socialising, being able to interact with customers, clients, and trying to find a solution that fits everyone. Curiosity in particular for me was every job interview that I went for, I just made sure that I researched the agency, what clients they had, any type of accolades, what work that they've done, because you just want to make sure it's a right fit. For me in particular, Icon was quite, like the one that I wanted to go down was with, because it's a full service media agency. Again, it was my first role out of uni. I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy media planning and buying, which I absolutely love at the moment. So if I didn't like it, I thought I could probably move into like creative strategy, whatever that may be. So just make sure you do your research, and yeah, go for it. Thank you. If you want to ask any questions, or feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you want to get in touch, anything related. Thank you.
Hey guys, so before I get into who I am, where I work and everything like that, I just wanted to ask you a few questions. So can you put up your hand if you know what advertising is and what you think it involves? Only a few? Okay. Well, I guess we're going to have no hands up for my next question, which is put your hands up if you know what media is and what that involves. No? Okay, well, I guess that's why I'm here and the rest of us. So, I'm Renee Winkelhood and I work at Zenith Media. My journey started here probably 6 years ago. I was sitting where you are today, and I ended up having a communication degree with a major in advertising. How I got into studying at Western Sydney was, first of all, it was quite local and I didn't really want to travel just yet. But at the same time, I was quite a creative person growing up, and I thought, how can I get a career that I'm going to feel I'm being successful, can grow in, have a passion for. And I thought, well, advertising, okay? But little did I know that there was so much more to advertising than just being a creative and coming up with ideas for an ad and, drawing them up, etc. And it wasn't until probably my second year we did a media unit, and I absolutely loved it. I thought, this is pretty cool, not only do you have the creative thinking behind the work, but you also have, the data and the reasons why, and, getting from point A to point B and seeing it through, and that's what I do, like, on my everyday job. But before I graduated, in my last year, I tried out for the MFA internship program. I'm pretty sure this is still a thing, but internships are great in your getting into the industry, figuring out if that's exactly what you want to do, having some exposure to people. Sometimes it's who you know as well. And I did my internship at Initiative, which is another media agency. I had an amazing time, and it really told me, this is the industry that I want to get into. Unfortunately, they didn't have any roles available once I'd finished uni, but I saw that Zenith were hiring, and that's where I landed my role as an account coordinator. I worked hard. There was so much change in the team, which kind of, forced me to work hard, and I got a Peak Performer Award in Feb 2018, which helped me get my internal promotion to an investment executive. And then at the end of last year, I pitched for an initiative called You Explore, which is a part of the group that my agency sits under, which is Publicis Media. And it's a global initiative where you can go to a different market for 2 weeks. So I just worked in the UK office, so in London, last month. So that was an awesome experience, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But so I've been there 2 years, 8 months now as an investment executive. So who is Zenith? We're the ROI agency, which stands for Return of Investment. Now, that's not just with business solutions and everything, but they're really people-focused as well. And they live by 3 values. So never give up, driven by detail, and inventive spirit. When I did the You Explore pitch, I really focused my journey on these 3 values, and I encourage you all to, throughout your studies, even take on these values and really drive yourself focused by them. Not only at Zenith do we live by those values, but we have a growth mindset. So that's the key area that the agency likes to focus on. So there's things like the You Explore opportunity, internal promotions, internship programs, building yourself up, even a global mobility program. So if you're interested in working in a different country, there's all these opportunities there for you, which to me is very valuable through my progression in my career. So I work on a few clients. I have global clients and I have local clients. Reckitt Benckiser is our big client. You would be familiar with all those brands up there. They work on about 95% TV buying, and the rest would probably be in digital. It's very hard to get them to switch from TV, especially with the decline in audience numbers. And then I have Bravecto, which we just launched a campaign not so long ago, so you'd probably see that on your TVs if you watch them. And that's like a dog and cat tick and flea treatment. And then we just recently won 2 clients under the Navitas group, which is 2 colleges. So we've got ACAP and SAE. And these are a few of the campaigns that we've done this year. So ACAP, the first one on your left. So that's after doing about 3 campaigns with them. We've learnt and grown together, and I've really taken charge of this one, which makes me proud. SAE in the middle, that was our first campaign that we've done with them, so it was great to go from the pitch process to the execution to seeing it live, and then now we're just waiting on some results. And also over here there's a few of RB's out-of-home campaigns. It's very rare that we get to do out-of-home, so to see it live is pretty awesome, and we're hoping to change the mindset of the client. So this tells you that me as an investment executive, I do a lot of offline buying, which is pretty much everything besides digital. So yeah, and I really enjoy it because I just can't get my head around all the digital terms, but I just wanted to play my You Explore experience for you that I did last month. And yeah, hopefully it inspires you to want to do something similar. Don't know if that's me. If you want to contact me, feel free. Any questions, if you're interested in, eventually a job at Zenith or any other media agency, I'm sure I can help you with your journey. Okay, thank you.
Name's Kim Ko. So apparently I am the oldest one here, but let's just skip that one. So there are three things that obviously I'm going to be covering. So who I am and who our business is, what we do, and some examples of our work, and essentially how I got here. So apart from you guys getting a quick 5%, this is what we're going to be covering today. So who am I? So Kim Ko, Director of Biddable Media Australian Government for There's a lot of fancy words in there, but essentially biddable media is any media bought through real-time bidding. So this is usually done through demand-side platforms, or DSPs, if you like to get into the lingo, or even directly on publisher platforms itself, such as Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. Biddable media is generally used to build efficiency in the digital buys. So I know there's going to be a few things that we're going to touch on, so I'm going to try to keep it very top line. But what I do in the biddable media team is essentially manage a team that strategizes, plans, implements, optimises, and reports on all biddable media campaigns for the Australian government. This is usually bucketed into three key channels. So search, this looks at Google, Bing, and Amazon. So what we're looking at here is all about ensuring that we're bidding on the right keywords, right? That our audience might be typing on a search bar, right? Knowing essentially how people might search for words differently. For example, Navy. People can see that as color, but for the Defence Force, they see that as a section of the Defence Force, right? So just knowing how to actually, split out those queries and making sure that the right ad shows to the right person. Social. Most of you guys will probably have be on social media. So it's kind of ensuring that our clients are aware of new social executions and how it might fit in the brief and reach the audience in a way that is engaging. This is through Facebook, Instagram, Snap, Twitter, LinkedIn, and apparently the new one, TikTok. Not really sure what that does just yet, but my team's onto it, huh? And the last one, programmatic. So this in itself is broken out even further for what we do, into three channels. So display, video, and audio. For display, what we look at is mainly banners and high impact executions. So when you guys see skins on the side there, on like SMH, that's what we do. Video, we look at pre-rolls. So just before you watch a YouTube clip, we're there. And even catch up and connected TV. So even on like Chromecast or on your PS4, just about to watch something on 9 Now or something, we're everywhere. So wherever you are, we'll get you. And the last bit would be audio. So anything on Spotify, SoundCloud, and any broadcast streaming devices, we can also reach you there. So obviously everything turning into digital age, we use the programmatic channels to make sure that we're able to reach them wherever they are, in whatever device, in whatever channel. So in my direct team, I have a team of 15 people of craft specialists who are trained to know how to best utilize the platform and maximize performance for each of the different campaigns we have for the Australian government. But as a whole, we actually have 80 people across Australia, all right? And within that, the makeup of our team is quite diverse. Our goal was to essentially ensure that our team is diverse as the people we need to reach, which is essentially all Australians. With all of us having the same mission of doing something that matters, and you can't read the rest of it because it's red, but it's to you, for your team, for for the customer, and for Australia. So what does doing something matters mean? So which kind of brings us to what we do. So when we're talking about Australian government, you guys are like, what do they advertise? I don't get it. Within Australian government, there's actually 134 different clients or customers, right? Some of the more notable ones are Department of Health, Australian Tax Office, Australian Eggs, Department of Home Affairs, National Museum of Australia, and Defence Force Recruiting. So the first kind of example I'll be talking to you about is the AEC, the federal election. So that was us. So if you guys don't know about this, you probably missed a vote and you'll probably get a fine soon. But The whole campaign was to essentially inform all Australians that a federal election was coming, inform all Australians 18 plus to register to vote, be informed as to when to vote, how to vote properly in order for your votes to be counted, and where to vote. Right? This includes all Australians travelling abroad, and also just like travelling. Everyone seems to have gone to Europe, but we got to go get them, and they still need to vote. This was quite a time-sensitive campaign, as this kind of ran across all the different channels, especially social, which obviously has a major role in any election nowadays. One of the big things that ran corresponding to just letting everyone know where to do it, where to vote, how to vote, was a disinformation campaign, which is quite important nowadays to ensure that all Australians know how to vote properly. For example, we launched a social moderation piece that kind of taught to Australians that calling up and voting doesn't actually count. People out there actually try to kind of send out wrong information just so that the vote doesn't count. The second one we did was for the Department of Communication and Arts. So the past decade has seen unprecedented growth in digital consumption into Australian lives, becoming an essential part of everyday life and remaining connected. This particular campaign looks at driving awareness for online safety that empowers parents and carers to utilise the access of available resources, advice, and tools through which they can report incidents. So here's the actual, I'm going to be playing the creative that we ran that kind of hit home a little bit, but here you go. Nope.
If you're a parent, it can be hard to know how and when to talk about online safety with your kids. For tools, tips and advice, go to esafety.gov.au. Online safety. Start the chat. Authorised by the Australian Government.
So that was just one of the craves that we ran for this, actually informing the parents of where to go. And not only that, we ran that plus also a Twitter chatbot. We ran a poll on Twitter to actually know what parents are worried about when they're thinking about their children online. And then we actually ran that, and then we ran a chatbot next to it to make sure that they're able to reach out and actually know who to talk to when things like that do happen. The last one we're going to be talking about quickly is Defence Force recruiting. This was essentially to build a long-term propensity to consider a career in the Australian Defence Force. So when a candidate is looking for a job, the Navy, Army or Air Force forms a part of that consideration, right? So as target application continues to grow, in addition to combat roles, there are actually roles out there that's not fighting. So there's like chefs, there's storemen, there's mechanics, all that still needs to be filled, whilst kind of competing with the private sector. So here is an example of a partnership that we did with the Matildas in the latest World Cup campaign, where the aim was to help young women see themselves more in the ADF and ensuring that they're able to see some of their everyday qualities that they have and mirrored in the Defence Force.
Communication in my role is extremely important to ensure mission success.
As a goalkeeper, I think it's about keeping everyone on the same page. Communication in football in general, but especially in acquisition, is vital.
You get to know the people you work with. You just feel that you're part of this big team and you're all supporting each other.
To know that everyone has each other's back is really special.
It's like hanging out with 23 friends all the time.
I think being a leader is about being able to lead from the front.
Try and bring out the best in every single player and make the most out of every single outcome.
So that when the going gets tough, you're able to pull out their strengths and then continue on. To me, representing Australia is a very big privilege and it's an honour. I've learned a lot about leadership and how far I can push myself.
All right. So the last little bit, how I got here. I could be a smart ass and say a bus and a train, but I've actually been here. I've been in the industry for quite a while now. I started in 2010, so straight out of here. I graduated in 2011, but first day out, went straight to Fairfax. No holiday for me, as a junior campaign manager. And after a little while there, well, I actually didn't know what to do in the junior campaign manager role. Actually wanted to be in creative initially. I thought it was cooler. But after I fell into the role, into digital, I actually loved it. And it was fun, and then things just kept changing, which actually led to the next role in the ad network, where my exposure in digital grew. This was essentially the first time I got into programmatic. I was actually even able to travel to Buenos Aires a couple of times just to set up the trading desk over there. So it's really fun. And then a few years after that, I started in Media Brands, where I first started off working in Cadrian, which is their programmatic trading desk. It started off with just display and video. Now, obviously, it's grown. It's kind of just exploded. So, if I was to leave you guys with something, is something from The Rock. When you walk up to opportunity's door, don't knock, kick it in, smile, and introduce yourself. At the end of the day, I had no idea what I was getting into. I just gave it a crack and just did it. That's essentially the biggest advice I can give you guys. Digital can get really scary and overwhelming, but hell, you just can learn it. All right? So, thank you.
Rightio. Lucky last. Let's bring it home. Thanks for coming out and listening to us chat about media today. So I'm James, and I work at Dentsu Aegis Network on the Woolies team. So I thought I'd give a bit of a background on kind of who I am and where I came from first. So, 2013 was when I graduated from a Bachelor of Communication Advertising. Kind of had some part-time jobs at that time, so I was a roadie for a bit, some rock and roll shows like Caesar Milan Tour, lots of old women with their dogs, which was fun. And from that, got straight into an internship with OMD that I did basically kind of in almost my final year of uni. And from there, ended up working at OMD for about 6 years across a number of different roles and a number of different clients. So the first kind of half of my career was in digital, so similar to what Kim was talking about just then, on clients like Intel, which was a global client, as well as Tourism Australia, which was quite fun, dealing with lots of different global markets on travel. And then when I became sort of account manager, account director towards the end of my time at OMD, I then worked on Qantas, where we pitched for that account and won it, which was great. Of Zenith, actually, I think. Sorry, apologies. But that was a great account to work on. It was at a really interesting time as well for that brand, because it was when they had just made a bunch of people redundant, and so they was doing a lot of brand activity to sort of reinvigorate that brand. Also quite a heritage brand as well in this country. And then also Estee Lauder Tom Ford, which was a little bit different. A lot of makeup. Influencers, tutorials, that sort of thing, a lot of YouTube. And then Tom Ford, he was kind of a bit weird, because basically everything that we planned, he supposedly had to personally approve. Whether that actually happened or not, who knows, but somebody did. And then as well, when I was at OMD, I then thought I would come back to Western Sydney, and then I did a Masters of Convergent Media, which is basically the degree after this one. And then, now I'm at Dentsu Aegis on the Woolies accounts, which I'll talk about in a sec, and then some of the other stuff that I do with Dentsu, which we'll talk about as well, is as an innovation champion. So they've got a big innovation program at Dentsu with a lot of the different agencies that they have within that holding group. So that's kind of a good incubator where we're sort of trying to bring in lots of different talent across our campaigns. So I'll give you just a bit of a quick intro into who Dentsu are, and then I'll explain a little bit about the Woolies model. videos, the pump-up videos. Every agency has one. But Dentsu Aegis is a Japanese-based holding company with a bunch of different agencies within them. So agencies such as BWM, With Collective and Isobar that are all creative agencies that have sort of different specialisms within them. Media agencies like Cara, Visium and Dentsu X, which again all have a specific purpose. And then there's also a bunch of other capabilities like MKTG that do sports marketing and experiential marketing, and Posterscope, which is an agency that's all they specifically do is plan out-of-home advertising, which is one of the only companies in the company to do that. For Woolies, given the scale of Woolies and how big they are as a client, they've also been a client of Dentsu for about 20 years now. So about middle of last year, the relationship evolved and we created an agency specifically to service that business, which includes Woolies supermarkets and then all their other brands like Big W, BWS, Dan Murphy's, which is Woolies as well, based out of Melbourne, and then all their insurance products like home insurance, pet insurance, mobile phones, all that sort of stuff. And essentially what that did is have an agency that had all of the capabilities within it. So I'm a client director that specialises in the planning and strategy, but then I'll also work with, a biddable director who will specialise in digital. We have a content director who works across all of our sponsorships and partnerships and all the stuff that we do from a production perspective, and a bunch of other stuff. And then similarly with our creative agency, M&C Saatchi, they created a similar model called The Greenhouse, which is similar to Woolies at Dan in the sense of, agency specific for that account. And the staff on Woolies is about 80 people in Sydney and Melbourne. And so I guess what do I actually do, which might kind of steer you guys in terms of if you're interested in doing the media unit or looking further. I guess probably the three key things I would say that I do is, first one being strategic planning, second one being a lot of problem solving, and the final one being project management. And then there's three buckets of campaigns for supermarkets that I work across. So the first one's kids and collectibles. So it was all Ushies a few weeks ago. As of tomorrow, it's going to be Discovery Garden. So spend $30, get a seedling. How good? Start your own veggie patch. So that was a big brief from us, from Woolies to us almost a year ago once Little Shop came out, kind of going, how do we have a retail driver campaign that encourages young families to get in store? And that's why you will have seen, if you shop a lot of collectible campaigns this year. The other stuff that I work across is sponsorships. So we sponsor Cricket Australia. We do a lot of stuff with Test and Big Bash. And so there's those cute kids there with the Woolies Cricket Blast, which is basically a grassroots initiative to train kids how to play cricket. And we do a lot with our content team on planning a lot of the activations and a lot of the content that we shoot for TV. And then the big one that we're planning now, which is very exciting, is Olympics. So that's next year, but already starting to plan who are our ambassadors, what are we going to be doing for that one. And then finally, seasonals, so the big campaigns. So Christmas planning, well underway. Got a brief for Easter last week, which is way too early, but anyway. And stuff like Winter Woolies, where we're, putting beanies on, out-of-home panels for a bit of fun. I think, I guess when I first was looking into the industry, it's kind of, advertising is a bit of a broad stroke. There's so many different parts that you can work within, but I think these are probably the main four skills that I think that you do see people do really well and stand out if you've got them or if you're kind of interested in that sort of part of your career. So the first one definitely being strategic thinking, problem solving. So a lot of my day is we'll receive a brief from a client. For Woolies this year, like I said, it's a lot of it's been around how do we, above and beyond the general sales that we get, how do we implement initiatives that will get people to spend a higher basket size now that plastic bags aren't in, or go to the shops more to us than doing a split shop with Aldi. And so for us, it's interrogating the challenge, it's working kind of how to solve it. A lot of the time they might think that they know how to solve it. It's not necessarily true, or they might think the problem's one thing, but it's actually something else. And a lot of audience and comms work around, specifically kind of who are we targeting and what interests them. Because ultimately, it's great to have a good idea, but if it doesn't appeal to your target, it won't be successful. Second one being pragmatic. So a lot of the stuff that we do is, yes, there's a lot of idea generation, a lot of big ideas, but making sure everything is backed with insight and really understanding how the business works. So, ideas that we would have gotten away with on Tourism Australia probably won't necessarily get away with on Woolies. The next one is, and this is a big one in media, is probably the ability to work at speed and the speed of change and pace in our industry. So I guess as we all know from the media that we consume, how often it changes. There's a new Facebook update every few months that impacts then advertisers in terms of what they can do. You've got lots of media companies merging, so a lot of the outdoor companies buying each other. You've got Nine buying Fairfax, like a lot of pretty big things that can happen in quite a short space of time. So we need to be really on top of that, as well as any idea that we have, really activating that into market as soon as possible, particularly for me on Woolies. If we don't do something quick enough on Coles do, then we're immediately on the back foot. And then the final one, resilience. So client feedback, there's lots of personalities, lots of people in advertising, lots of ideas. I think it's important to have lots of ideas, not be too precious about them. Maybe only 1 in 100 will get through, but that one is the one that, that's worth it. So I think definitely that's a key skill to have. Great. Well, that's me. I didn't put the LinkedIn like everybody else, but feel free to reach out if you've got any questions. I'm more than happy to have a chat. Thank you.
So just in case you forgot, there are the 4 people that just presented to you. I'm only going to go through 2 slides. So how to get into the industry. I know you guys are all in your first year. Yeah? Most of you? Yeah, so but the time goes by really, really quickly. I've been in this industry for 100 years and that's gone really, really quick. So just a couple of tips for you to think about, and you're more than welcome to reach out to any of us. But if you want to apply for an internship, all those logos are sitting on the MFA website, so mediafederation.org.au website. When you click on any of those icons, it'll give you the person who organises the internships at that agency. So you can just click, send them a note and say, hey, I was at a guest lecture that some amazing people from the industry came and spoke at, and then you'll probably, if you open it up really, really cleverly, they'll go, oh, they actually know about our industry, so I'll read this email. The other one would be to like us on the MFA Facebook page. All the internships and all the entry-level positions are posted there as well, if you're interested. Follow us on the MFA LinkedIn page. Our LinkedIn page talks about a whole lot of things that are happening in the industry. So that'll give you something to have a conversation about if you go for an interview. Yep, you'll be able to say, hey, I saw this digital marketing course or something and I saw these people on it, or whatever it is. Yep. Okay, I'm just trying to give you guys some tips, so it just makes it a little bit easier, because I know you guys think it's really, really difficult and stuff, but it's actually, if you know the sorts of conversations that people want to have with you when you're going for an interview or applying for something, regardless of whether it's our industry or any other industry, it's just worth asking about them, writing them down and remembering them for later. And then follow all the agencies, all of their agencies, being Zenith, Icon, Dentsu and UM, all have social media pages. Just watch what everybody's doing and you'll get an understanding of the industry and culture and what people are doing in the industry. That'll make you think about whether you want to do an internship. An internship, as Renee said, is a great opportunity to see if you like us, and we'll see if we like you. And 90% of the time, if we like you and you like us, we usually go, okay, let's get together and work together. Yeah? Okay. My last little thing is, once you're in the industry, you get to be part of this awesome program called NGEN. NGEN is for anyone in the industry that has less than 5 years experience. If you work at one of those media agencies that are a member of the MFA, you get to go to all these training workshops for free. There's 60 workshops in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. There's 3,000 indenters, just like you guys, who all want to meet people, all want to know that they're all in the same spot, you know, they're all learning the same sort of things. There's presentation skills, there's all sorts of things. Then there's also some charity, because we know we're a special industry that gets we're lucky with what we do. We get taken out to lunch and, you know, events at night and movies and, you know, go see amazing concerts for free and football games and all that sort of stuff. We know that we're lucky. So we, as an industry, like to give back as well. And every year, last year, the NG community raised about $30,000 and gave it back to us to support underprivileged children, which is amazing. But we also celebrate, not that we don't celebrate at any other time of the year, but the guys will tell you that at the end of the year, we have an NG Halloween party. That's one of the charity events that the guys went to. They played dodgeball, and this is the last year's Halloween party. There were 650 people. You get to go and drink and network and have lots of fun. Every single person gets dressed up, and it's a great way to celebrate our year and how hard everyone's worked and just have a bit of fun. That's our industry. Did anyone find that valuable at all, hearing the stories from the guys? Thumbs up.